Hello YouTube, Robin Pumpkinhead here, and welcome to part 2 of our 4-part Halloween special, where we're building a haunted subway station and ghost train setup. Just like in part 1, I'm going to be ably helped by the haunted subway construction crew of Billy Bob and Jim. They're just going to help me build what is today's activity, the station structure of our haunted subway and ghost train. And as the majority of you will know, I do actually already have a full subway station underneath Brick Nottingham. It's a very ordinary non-haunted version that I did first in the first standing hole, and it was always my long-term plan to have a subway station in both of the standing holes and have one train kind of going around a circuit that would appear in one standing hole, then vanish, and then appear again in the second one. So this has been a long time coming, but I did want to make this station a bit different. And I also had in parallel a very good problem to have, but it was all these hidden side ghost pieces that I wanted to use in a very constructive way. So I put the two ideas together and decided that the second subway station would be a haunted one. So that's where it came from. And just before we get started today, I do want to go through a couple of the main queries that were raised from part 1, where we looked at the sort of foundation and how everything would be set up for this big build. Very much the planning phase. And they largely focused around our Duplo powered train base and why I was using it and shouldn't I use it in a different way. Now, rattling through those quite quickly, one thing was about whether I could use normal train track in any guise or even the single tracks. Well, no, because these wheels are very broad and they've got this nice grip bit that I'm going to need to work very well because it's going to be changing direction a lot. And hopefully the spacing in between the wheels is actually 4.5 studs. So if I did that using jumper plates and so on, my improvised track would be a lot higher for not really much benefit. In fact, if it didn't grip on it, a lot worse. So this very broad sort of runway for it works very well actually, has absolutely no issues with gripping to it or anything else. Another question was why I don't have the train itself going outside the station and then completely reappearing before it sort of bounces back, rather than having it caged within the station itself. And the main reason for that is that if it didn't read one of these green colorings to bounce back, or maybe it was low on batteries and that caused it to fail, it would be underneath my tables, careering away goodness knows where, and I won't be able to reach it very well because we'll be boxing this station in, and the gap between the two tables is, well, pretty much a drinks can, and if it gets too far, I really won't be able to reach it, at least not very easily. So I figured by having it like a caged animal in a zoo or something like that, pacing from side to side, it would be kind of more angry and would see it, well, all of the time. So I'm a fan of that. And then a lot of people said that I should use Powered Up using the app and using the colour reader of that. Well, that costs a lot more. This is about 20 odd pounds, and the hub would be more than that. Also, that requires the app to be running at all times. And as I film using my phone, I would have to actually use another device, like a tablet, and I'd have to set that up every single time I wanted just to power this train for a few moments. Whereas at the moment, I can just lift it up, put it on and set it going. So it's a lot simpler a process to use if I do it this way. Now, if you're not using your phone to film, then maybe the app works for you, but this definitely works better for me. And lastly, another reason for not having it leaving the station is that I'm going to have lots of ghostly bits all hanging off this train, and it's already 8 studs wide. 4 Duplo studs is 8 normal studs. So if I've got other stuff hanging off it as well, I'd need a great big gaping archway just to accommodate this and all of the peripheries hanging off it. And I think that would look silly. So I'm definitely going to keep this firmly within the station. I might even make it so it literally can't get out by putting some sort of barricades across the doors, and maybe that'll make it more obvious. Right, so we've got a lot to do today, and I don't want to do an hour-long video because I know that puts off a lot of people. But what I will do is probably summarise the normal subway station that we've got already in Brick Nottingham, because there are a lot of things that we're going to be doing in common with that one in this build. And then we can get on with building the basic structure that we defined last time in part 1. If you haven't seen that, go back, watch that first. It'll make a lot more sense. Where we've got the thin platform, the track, the wider platform, this whole setup, and then the back wall. So I thought it was a good idea to come back to our original subway station in the first standing hole, just to have a look at the main features of this one, because a lot of them will be replicating in our haunted subway station. Because at the end of the day, although I want that one to be very different in the fact that we're obviously going to have a caged haunted train, and we're also going to have a different platform setup and so on, and loads of ghosts and all sorts of other different things, it still will be part of the same subway network, so it should have the same sort of styling. So there's a lot of things that I do want to keep. So on the back wall of this one, we've got a lot of advertising hoardings. These are all advertising things on at the cinemas of Brick Nottingham, of which there are 2. So I'm going to keep that sort of idea. We've also got the tiling along the back, which are very much like. We've got the medium and dark azure being this very nice bright blue, the red and dark red in the middle section, and the yellow and kind of flamish orange on the right there. And we've also got a variation in tile size, in that those are 1x1s, those are 1x4s, and those are 1x2s, and that just varies the texture a lot as well. So I do want to keep that. Then we've also got this toothpaste tricolour stripe, which is also the Netherlands flag, as many Dutch people point out, on the columns. So I want to keep that as well. And even maybe keep the same sort of benches as well in our new station. Now, because of the differences in the platform widths, I won't be able to do exactly the same setup as this, I don't think. I probably don't want this many pillars obstructing our view of the ghost train, and I probably won't have room to put these maps on, for example, because they are quite deep. I mean, this platform is actually 12 studs deep, and I see it as being the central platform between 2 tracks. Maybe the back track is going that way, as we can see. Ooh, hey. And maybe there's another platform just cut off here by the guillotine that is the standing hole that's going the other direction as well. And that's probably the same situation in our station, the haunted station, in that we'll have 3 lines, I think. Basically a disused line right up against the wall, which will cage our ghost train. Then we've got a slim platform, then our working track, which is for this train that we're seeing beezing on by. And then we've got the very beginning, 4 studs worth of the next platform. And I think that would be this platform, but we're just seeing the first 4 studs of it. So in that case, maybe the guillotine has come down and chopped off it a bit more that way. So if you follow all that, then I think you'll understand what I'm trying to do. But I'm going to keep all these arches on the base as well, with this sort of texture brick, just to give it the same sort of look. Probably have another City News advertising at the end of that. But one thing that is going to be very different is the kind of entryway. We've got a little less space on that standing hole, though I'm going to try and make the best of it, because I want to have our train that zigzags on the Duplo motor base have as much space as possible. So one way I'm going to do that is by basically not having all these very space-hungry escalators and the sort of ticket booth halfway down the stairs going all the way up to the subway entrance there in sand green. So what I'll do instead is have some stairways disappearing into some pedestrian-sized archway pieces and then sort of vanishing into the underneath of the table. And then we can have the subway entrance, maybe even 2, one near the airport, one somewhere else, coming up from the ground elsewhere, and they would sort of be linked to the station, but we wouldn't see a continuous sort of passage all the way down. And then hopefully I can get another little Easter egg, like we've got Gollum here with his fish in a little tunnel there. So yeah, I'm hoping to keep most of these features. Everything like the sort of grill bits at the top there. Also the security cameras that are up here as well. And try and keep as many things in common with both of these stations as possible. Of course, this one's actually also got the River Trent here, which I really should block in. I was thinking of doing an undersea kind of mini scene there for an under river scene, but you kind of get the idea. So I'm going to have very many things in common with this station in our new one. So memorize this view. Okay, so you remember part one earlier this week, and you've just had a recap of the original subway station of Brick Nottingham, which we're going to use as a big influence on this one. So I think we can plough straight into this one's build with the first platform. I'm not going to do all of these in great detail brick by brick because it would just take far too long. I don't want to make this a whole sort of 10-part thing, and it'd be ideal if we had this finished by Halloween after all. So I'm using the same 8 long arch pieces with some more detailed bricks, the profile ones and these palisade ones on top, just to keep the theme in common with the one we just saw in the Lego room. And as I said there, this is only 4 deep because of the available space that we've got at the second standing hole. But I do imagine this as being the last 4 studs of a much broader platform between one set of track, which will have our current train that we just saw going by, and another track that perhaps is going in the opposite direction that we just can't see because of where our cutaway has happened. So this will probably just have a few passengers probably fleeing for their very lives away from what's going to be further back. So the next stage then is same sort of setup, but with 8 deep studs, and that's the, I suppose, side platform really, but I imagine that the line that's got the ghost train on would be a disused line, but it would have been in use at some point. So this platform would have served the new line and the old disused line back in the day. And if you look at really old subway stations in London, for example, this thing is very common. You often get bits that are out of use, or every single station looks completely different from the one before. So that is not unrealistic in any way. So this one I think is a lot broader, so we'll be able to have some benches and things on here, and lots of ghosts hopefully, including these guys, and Neymar Ream and all the rest of it. Thank you very much, by the way, for all of your stories so far as to explain the backstory there that were as a result of the brick haul on Wednesday. Thanks for those. So then the next stage obviously is our track setup. Then we will need to make this a better colour combination than our rainbow that it is at the moment, and also make it a bit broader because this is only 8 studs wide, and this base itself is actually 8 studs wide. So we're going to need at least one more tolerance each side to make that sort of 9, 10. And I think the wall's going to be too thick at the base, 11, 12. So rather than have that set up, I think we can finally get rid of that. I'm going to have some 12 deep plates in dark bluish grey to kind of act as the floor for our improvised track. And if I just put on some random panel and wall pieces there, you'll see that it will look roughly like that, which gives us plenty of room to fit our haunted ghost train in the middle. So that is the setup we're going for. So there's lots to do. I've got to do a sidewall on this extreme with a bit of detail. I've got to do a sidewall on this extreme with a bit of detail. I've got to build all of that new version of this, all in dark bluish grey, and do a really interesting backdrop as well with all those coloured tiles on and everything else. And then I think I'll have arches out of both of these platforms for pedestrians, as I described upstairs, just to allow them to leave the scene, but without having a continuous stairway from this level to our normal street level, which will be right up there. Cool. Where to start? So as you can probably see, I've decided to start at the back, and that's just for filming purposes, really. I figured that it'd be a lot easier to see what we were doing at the back if we did it first and then gradually went forwards, as opposed to the other way around. So I've put an absolute load of 12 deep plates together, which is all those ones I got in a recent haul, and I had an absolute stack of them. And I've put on the green tiles in what I think is going to be their final place. It's a bit asymmetric just because the sensors are more towards the front, so it'll kind of be like that to like that sort of thing. And I've put on grey panel pieces now and some grey tiles as well. So we've got that sort of man-made or brick-built track, should I say. Right, and then I've started on the back wall. So for this, I've got a set of black bricks just to join everything together because they're quite cheap. Then I've got a set of plates in dark bluish grey, which I can just build a row of slopes onto, and that's just so the wall can be a little bit more set back from where that train's going to be, but I think that'll give it a realistic look. So I've just done another great big sub build here to do the other side, which I can push down on camera and sort of add the plate layer and then fill in all the gaps with this slope pieces. Okay, so there is our base, which is going to hold it all together nice and firmly. And then the next layer is to start putting on all the modified bricks that are going to hold the tiles onto that back wall. So it's just a lot of these 4s and then some 2s as well. Those are the ones that I got a load of in that recent bricks and pieces order because I didn't have any of these, and I'm going to be using quite a lot because the spacing doesn't allow for me to just use these easy to find 4 wide ones. And then I'm going to start having some window frames as well, which are going to be taking those adverts. Except these will not be normal cinema adverts, but something a lot more spooky. Good, right, so I need to build this up into a massive, great big wall of these, and then we can tile them and even fill in those window pieces. So let's do that. Wow, that's a repetitive job. I've tried to make it symmetrical, and that means I've got 7 studs on this side and this side, and 8 here and 8 here with a triple window in the middle, which actually frames the subway construction crew and Robin Pumpkinhead rather well. But actually I did consider making these a lot deeper and kind of having ghosts kind of pouring out through them. But then I just figured that it kind of looked like they were walking through a door rather than through a wall. So I thought, maybe not. I can still do some pretty fun things with them anyway. So yeah, I've even started now adding this kind of rung level, which is made of 2 different types of modified plate. One is with the kind of bar that's held in the middle, and the other one is the one where it's held at both ends. And I do 2 of those, then 1 of those. And the reason why it's that order is just because that means that when you clip on all of these, none of the arms actually hit the places where they can't connect. So it's just the way it works, really. So this, if you remember the one from upstairs that we've already done, is the kind of bit that bridges the gap between the table bottom from the layer above and the station, just so we don't have anything unsightly. It might be that this doesn't actually fit very well where we're going to do it, because this station's a bit deeper, so it's going to be kind of tucked more under the table, which might push these almost flat, which still might look good, I don't know, but I'm going to put them on for now. And if we take them off later, then that's fine. They're incredibly cheap because they're about sort of 4p each, so I'm not too worried about that. Right, then onto these window spaces. So I got at relatively great expense some black window panes to go in these, and that is so you wouldn't really see any glass or see any light coming through them, because I thought that would make it a bit more spooky. I could have used, since we're going to put stickers on these, some clear ones, but you'd have that clear sort of edge around the outside. So I'm glad I went for black ones, actually. And this is where we're going to be using our first sticker, several copies of it. And this one's from the Newbury Haunted High School, set 70425, which is obviously one of those hidden side sets. And I have managed to accumulate 3 of these sheets. And can you guess which one I'm going to be using here? Yep, it's the sort of, what's that, yawning maw of death that is there. So there are 2 different stickers, And if I do some of them the other way up, they'll be slightly different. So in a way, there's sort of 4 different variants of it, if you think about it that way. And I'm going to use all 6 to make 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, and then I'll probably have one just blacked out. Maybe I'll get that 7th sticker in due course. Fortunately, these sheets aren't very popular and are quite cheap to get, so that's not so bad. Right, so I need to do some stickering and get them in place, and then we can focus on starting to add our 3 sections of coloured tiles, which will be very exciting. Right, that's those on. It's a bit repetitious, but I still like it. I think it's quite scary and spooky. Kind of got the abyss that you can stare into and get transfixed while you're getting maimed by a horde of ghosts. So that's fun. I've put these frames on backwards deliberately, so the picture is slightly recessed from this edge, and I think that'll make it look a bit sort of more, I don't know, like it's got some depth to it as well, and you can kind of look deep into it. And bearing in mind that this train is going to be blocking, you know, say about half of these at any one time, I don't think it's so bad that we've got so many of them. Anyway, it's better than having a cinema advert. So now I need to go on to the incredibly time-consuming and arduous job of tiling all of that. And I've got 3 sections. So the first one I'm going to do with 1x1 tiles. Yeah, this will be the most fun, most definitely. And this is going to be using predominantly sand blue, which is the 3 on the right, but with a sort of accent colour of medium blue. And that kind of is a bit sort of subdued and a bit otherworldly. Definitely not as bright a colour scheme as we had on our previous subway station. And that's just so I'm hoping it will give it more of a sort of Stranger Things type feel, where it's all a bit otherworldly and a bit sort of gloomy. So that's the idea there. Then the middle section will use 4 long tiles, like we had on the red and dark red section before. So this will be dark tan predominantly, with tan being the accent colour of that. And again, that's quite a gloomy colour combination. And then for the 2 wide tile pieces section, I'm going to have predominantly sand green, with the accent colour being light bluish grey. So again, kind of a drab combination, I think you'll agree. So I'm really hoping that'll look excellent. Oh, and I do need to remember to keep a 4x1 space on each of these bits in the middle for a station name. You remember the last one had the black square, or rectangle rather, that said Lego City on it. I'll have a different name for this one, and I actually haven't got the sticker for that yet. That'll be coming in the hall next Wednesday, just in time for the final part. So I'll have to use a blank black one for now. Right, let's get tiling, and I've got to make sure all of these 1x1s are aligned. Right, so here's the dark tan and tan section done. Easiest one being 4 long each time. Just started the sand blue and medium blue section. Just put the lighter ones in kind of a random order just to break it up. And I'm sort of thinking, while I'm aligning these, of not having them so perfect actually, deliberately, just so it looks a bit run down. So maybe if I do have these tiles, you know, just slightly off kilter, that's a good thing. Anyway, these black ones are going to be the nameplates, and I've deliberately left a couple of spaces, and I'm going to do the same in each section. And I'm thinking that's because wouldn't it be quite spooky if I had a wall of eyes watching you? Yeah, I thought that'd be quite fun. So if I just had one of these eyes kind of all at different angles, all sort of peering at people. I don't need too many in the middle because the train's going to be blocking it at all times, but that might be quite spooky as well. It definitely adds a bit more of this lovely yellowish green into the mix, so the station looks very different from our other one. So I think I'll add a load more of those. Thanks, Mika, for your contribution, because I'm going to need quite a few to make it look super spooky. So it's starting to come together now. There is the sand blue and the medium blue, and it's sort of muted, but sort of bright at the same time. I mean, you can almost imagine it being like the azure one we had upstairs, but kind of muted with age, perhaps. Yeah, so it's looking good. And I've just started the sand green and grey one. So that's looking good there. And I could put on a few more eyes. See, I've put 2 in that section, 5 in that section. I don't want to do too many, but I do have a few more. So I'll see what that looks like when I've done the other side as well. And I do have quite a few tiles left, but that's because I'm going to continue the blue tiling all along the left-hand side, and I'm going to continue the sand green all along the right-hand side as well, just like we did in the other one, so it kind of wraps around. The reason why I've picked 3 colours rather than 1, just variety, just to give it a bit of interest, really. It worked really well in the other one when I couldn't decide, so I thought I'd do the same thing here. Cool. It's looking spooktacular already. Okay, well there's the back wall finished. Relatively time consuming, but looks good, so that's the main thing. Got the 3 main sections. I think the green works really well with the grey. I think that might be the best one, I don't know. But there's also 5 eyes on that side as well. I do have 4 more left, and I might use those on some of the sides as well, or I can always come back and add some, especially maybe to the centre section over here as well. So that is looking good, I reckon. So I think we can put this whole setup to one side for now, because we aren't going to need to come back to it until we're adding on the other platforms, and it'll be easier to show individually. I will add the name of the station onto each of these plates in due course, and that'll just complete the scene. But for now, let's just show the train running on its new track. Yeah, I think that's going to work really well. Brilliant. Right, so I think the central platform is next, because that's going to be the next one joining onto the bit we just did. And the first thing I was thinking about was the placement of a couple of columns. So I'm going to have one kind of up at that end and one kind of up at this end, leaving a large space so we can largely see the train moving in the middle. I'm not going to end up with a third one blocking our view. I don't think that would be great. And this time I've done it in a normal way by having one of these bricks at the bottom and then round bricks with the normal 3-coloured stripe, or the Dutch flag as they always like to say, before getting to the top. And that may connect to something. It ended up getting connected to the underside of all the shops above last time. I don't know yet, but I'll put that as a tile for now. But I've also got one of these round bricks with the axle hole in. And I've put that near the top because I think next time, or the time after that, when we do part 4, I'm going to add some ghostly features to that. So I won't say any more now, but we could do anything. We have a tile with some sort of slime coming down, or maybe one of the energy effect type pieces or something like that coming off there. But what does occur to me, which I'd kind of forgotten when I made this setup, was that we strengthened these last time, because that means that when you hit them accidentally, they won't kind of fall down and collapse every 2 minutes. So what I want to do is put a Technic axle or combination of them inside all of these pieces, and they do all have the axle hole, so that's good. But I do need to connect that axle connection to the base, otherwise it will just snap off at the bottom. So what I'm going to do is actually remove one of these 8x8 plates and replace it with, I know it's yellow, a 2x8 Technic plate. And I'm using one of these because it's got the Technic axle kind of cross on the inside of that one, and then 2 bricks that don't, so they're just black normal bricks, and I'm going to put that there, so then the axle will be able to go right into that space. And then I just need to use a couple of 8x1s and a couple of 8x2s to fill in the remaining space. Now, all of this will be tiled, so you won't see the yellow at all. The middle bit, I'm going to have to use a round plate there just to fill in that. So there's a tiny bit of yellow that you might be able to see around the corners. But to be honest, that's the case with the other station as well, and you wouldn't know, would you? So when that's all tiled, I think that'll be fine. And that means that when I get some Technic axles involved, I'll be able to connect all of this very firmly to that, and it'll be impossible to knock over. So I'm going to get some axles into that one and do this one as well, and then we can start the tiling. Okay, so they're a lot more sturdy now. Can almost do a judo chop Yeah, and they aren't coming out, so that's good. And I've also started the tiling around this one, and you can't see the yellow Technic plate that is there, but it is under there, so that's nicely concealed as well. And if you remember on the tiling last time, we had white tiles right on the very edge of the platforms to represent where you're not really supposed to stand. And this time I've gone for light bluish grey, just so it's a lot more muted and kind of dirty and old and, well, haunted. And the next layer was on the old one, a dashed line of grill pieces using dark bluish grey and intermittent yellow ones. So to make this one a lot more spooky, I thought I would use these neon trans green ones instead to basically be the alternate colour that would make this whole platform look even more spooky. So I think that'll work as well. And then I've got room for a couple of benches, so I just do them with a 2x6 and some jumper plates on each side, like that. And then I get two of these pieces because they look like those sort of kind of flat benches that you get, have one facing each way like that. And I'll put one there, and here's another one I did there, so that'll look good. I don't think, again, I'm going to have one of those big map pieces that would be in a station like this, just because I want us to be able to see that train and all the ghosts a lot more clearly. So I won't do that. Right, so I'm going to finish tiling this whole platform in this style, and I'm going to put the odd sort of jumper plate now and then so we can attach a ghost in due course. They'll probably need moving, but I can add some. And I think that'll make this look a lot better. As always, this is taking far longer than I thought. I had hoped to get the whole station done in today's video. Hopefully I'll still have time. But this is the platform that I've done so far with the nice trans neon pieces, I think giving it a bit of a ghostly feel. I've also added a jumper every now and then because I want to have ghosts all over this middle platform. And I thought a couple of them I might just use to put sort of bits of newspaper that were kind of blowing around. Because if you think about it, all of those films where they have sort of ghosts and weird scenes always have bits of newspaper just sort of blowing in the breeze. So I thought that would be a good feel for the platform. Right, so now I'm going to focus on this area where I think I'm going to have kind of some steps going up in light bluish grey, ultimately to be kind of capped off by an arch. So this will be a pedestrian exit, and essentially it will be just a stairway that goes off into nothing. So we won't see where this goes for its full length, but what the situation will really be is that the table will be here, and it will just kind of go up underneath that, so we'll not see where it goes, and then later we'll have an exit sort of popping out as if it was connected. So I think that'll look good. Obviously I need to do these sides in modified bricks so I can tile them as well in what will be this side's colour, so that will be the sand green and light bluish grey. But yeah, I think that's looking good. So we'll do this end, and well, we may as well do this end as well while we're at it. That'll just be more of a straight wall with a normal add and some of the blue tiling. Okay, so I've done the two ends. This is the end of the blue side, which will go on here. And I've just used a normal advert here rather than another big scary pair of jaws. And that's just from the train station 7937. And is something that's in common with the other train station, or subway train station, should I say. So that'll blend the normal with the abnormal. And then for the abnormal element, we've got obviously a couple more eyes, which are a lot easier to put into this 1x1 tiled section. Speaking of which, because of the arch pieces that we're starting to incorporate now, can't use all modified bricks because that's actually part of that arch piece. So in a couple of places I've had to sort of cheat and put a 1x2 tile in there rather than two 1x1s, but quite frankly I don't think you'll notice when it's on. So put that there. So that's there. So you can see this is the start of the arch for our live place track, and this is the start of the arch for the one with the captive train on it, the ghost train. And then to the other end, we're going to have a bottom step there. So this is the one that I've done with one more eye and the same sort of setup. And you can see that that stairway just disappears off into the darkness. And I quite like that because it's spooky as well. And what's more, if I just attach this, I think that when you see this from the first standing hole and you're really looking across, you'll very much see this angle and you'll be able to see that stairway going off. I could have put it on that side, but I think you'll see it from more places in the Lego room on this end. And although this whole sort of setup will be within the tunnel, I have actually added here a normal 1x6x5 panel piece. And I thought, well, you will be able to see a little bit into that tunnel, although, you know, the rest of the arch will be kind of like there or something like that. And I thought I'd make use of another sticker from the Ghost Train Express set 70424, which is this very ghostly bit of graffiti that says boo, B-O-O-O, exclamation mark. So I thought I'd put that over here, and it'd just be an appropriate bit of graffiti that we'd kind of catch a glimpse of every now and then. So I'm going to put that on there. And then you might have noticed that there's just one stud on the side there. And I thought I'd put an advert on that wall, much like we've got lining kind of the escalator journey in the other one. And for that, I'm just going to add a 2x2 tile. And I thought this one was looking like an advert for eggs. It just says, and has a couple of eggs on that. That's actually from the Piggy Pirate Ship set. 75825, and that is quite a cool tile, really. I must have got that in bricks and pieces, I presume, but then it is licensed, so maybe I didn't. Anyway, I just thought that would go kind of there. And although I do appreciate that that is quite low and quite kind of near the steps themselves, I think if I put that any higher, we wouldn't be able to see it. But I do like that positioning. I think it you know, draws your eye and makes you think this is a normal subway station until these guys came along. So, right, I'll add this on to there, and then I think we can move on to the thinner platform, which I may as well get tiled straight away, and then we can sort of finish the ends of that one as well. Right, so there's that little bit of graffiti, and I think that looks really good because it stands out against that dark bluish grey rather well. I think you'll be able to see that even when the rest of the arch is on and it's a little bit dark from being underneath the table, because this will be right up against the side of the table of the space that this is going into. So yeah, so there's our middle platform. Moving on to the near side then, we've got exactly the same setup here with loads of jumpers for taking minifigures that are running away from all of the ghosts on the middle of the scene. We've got the same edging here and the same grill pieces as well. Now for this edge, which is going to be pretty much tucked underneath the table, I did want to have kind of a bit of a rock face just to suggest that it was kind of underground, if you see what I mean. And I thought I would use the last eye along with all of these 1x1 tiles and a couple of 1x2s just to bridge the arch pieces as we discussed earlier. So that's quite a simple end there, but we can kind of attach one to the other, and that is half of the arch that will join up with that half of the arch there, forming our tunnel. So I think that end looks really good. Then the other end, I've got even more space, and I did want to do exactly what we've got on here, in that we've got a hint of a stairway going off into the distance. So I wanted another stairway here, but we haven't got the same depth. And now I know a lot of people find this sort of guillotine that I keep mentioning kind of hard to imagine, but if this was a full station and you did just chop it there, you might have half of a stairway going up. So that's what I've tried to do here. We've got the same sort of stairway that we've got there, except the guillotine has just come down and absolutely cleaved it in half, thus meaning we've only got half of the steps here showing. So when I do that, it's exactly the same in a way as what's across the track on the other platform if I connect those two together, and that is the same sort of detail that we've got on the other station. Oh, and we really can see that graffiti now. That looks great. But you can see we've got the same sort of arch. Here we had the 1x6 arch, and here I've got basically a 1x3x2 arch, but it's only half of one. So that actually looks like it might have been chopped by this guillotine. So I hope you can see what I'm trying to get at and what I'm trying to do, and not think that this is a very narrow staircase, because that's exactly not what it is. And I've deliberately put one of these tiles on at a slant here, and I've deliberately got one missing. And I thought that one of these tiles could have fallen off and split into two, and basically have its two halves sort of at angles on this jumper plate set up there. So it looked like that. And I think that looks a bit like it's falling apart. So I like that very much. And then I thought I'd add another 2x2 tile, and this time I'm using the tile from the Series 8 DJ, which, oh golly, I'm not even going to try and read that. Hollywood doors, I don't know. Anyway, that's a nice bright tile for an advert that can go on that surface. So when we look at this station from the other standing hole, or just obliquely, we'll be able to see detail in that tunnel, and in this tunnel, which will give a lot of interest, I think. And these tiles obviously continue from the back wall around this side. Now, I've also got a mini tiny little tunnel, much like we had with Gollum in the previous station, but it's a lot smaller. And for this one, I've decided to use a glow-in-the-dark rat. Now, he doesn't glow in the dark that well unless he's sort of charged, so he's not just glowing there. But I figure if I put him in his little hole, which is quite hard to actually do, especially with a camera in front of you. Let's see if that does it. Then I can shine a light on him. And then when he gets a good dose of light, he should glow. Hopefully you can see that is glowing. Anyway, it works really well in real life. So hopefully that will start to show up when it's in the Lego room. You can kind of see that glowing, can't you? Yeah, so that's good fun as well. So we've got quite a lot of interest on this wall. And what I need to do now is build up the wall on the sides, on that side and on this side. This bit will tuck underneath the table. So the table's pretty much here, essentially. So this will vanish, and this will need to build up in front of the side of that table edge, and the same on the other side. And then I think we can bring back in the back setup, and we've pretty much got our station complete. Phew! Right, so here it all is pieced together. Whew, it's looking pretty good, I think. Pretty massive construction, actually, for one video. I really should have split this up and started these Halloween specials a bit earlier, I think. Nonetheless, let's show you the new additions. So I've completed this wall up here, and I'm using a stickered brick. It wasn't deliberately bought, actually. I was just buying 1x16 bricks in dark bluish grey, and one of the ones that I bought used had this set of runes on, and these runes are from a Lord of the Rings set, 9473, The Mines of Moria, and that's a pretty cool set with a really cool blue troll in it. But I just thought, rather than have that facing the other way and have the runes not visible from our perspective, I thought I may as well include them. Maybe it can build into the folklore about why this subway station is so haunted. Anyway, this sort of ugly cutaway here is because that's where that top table is going to be, the table that's got the airport on and so on. And this bit is going to be up the side of the other adjacent table that's got the hospital and things like that on it. Pretty hard to imagine from here, I know, but you know, if you just bear with me, that will fit very well, almost seamlessly, into the Lego room table setup. So that's good. I decided to use the last eye, as I said here. That's tying in with patterning we've got at the other station over the archways both. This archway is 10 wide. I don't want to do it any wider than that because otherwise it will just start to look silly. This one is 8 wide, which is all we need for our normal train. And I've got profile bricks in this wall just to give it a bit of a rundown look as well. So that's looking pretty good. Now these two bits sticking out are for security cameras, and they'll be the same as the ones we did in the last subway station, just angled down, kind of looking at what's going on. But I thought I'd do a subtle change on this one, given we've got a haunted thing, and I'd actually replace the lens that was in trans clear with this trans neon green one, or trans bright green, I think is the accurate name for it. It's slightly different, and that would look a bit more spooky. So if I take that one off, I've got one for each one, then you see that adds even more spookiness. Now I could have added one of those eyes on the end, I suppose. That would make it fun as well, but I decided against that. In fact, this one is blocking the eye tile underneath, so I might move that slightly, but not too bad. So we've got one kind of watching each platform, which is pretty realistic, I think, so I like that. Now looking at the other end, it's a bit of a beast now, isn't it? Similar sort of setup. I did have another one of those, so I thought I'd put one at each end. Maybe that's a sort of curse written in old English or some other language that's made this place as haunted as it is. And again, that will go up the side of the table that will have the fairground on, and that one is going to tuck underneath, if I've measured it all right, the table that's got the airport on. So it should all fit rather well. But I think as a big setup in its entirety, that's very hard to show you, I think it's looking pretty good. So do tell me what you think. I'll be very interested to hear what you think of all the mouths along the back. I think they're quite good fun, bearing in mind that some of them are going to be blocked at any one time by the ghost train. These ghosts are going to be all sort of changed and spookified up, so don't worry about them too much at this stage. I do like the eyes in the wall, but tell me what you think, and about the colour choices that I've made for all of the colours along the outsides. The cameras, the wonderful pillars that we've still got that tie it in with the rest of our system, some benches and blowing around newspapers, and some ads for music and eggs and some graffiti as well. So I think it's looking pretty good altogether. I'll be interested what you think. So do let me know, as usual, in the comments. And while we're here, I just thought I'd have the train base in its place, and we can set that going and the annoying noise that it produces. A lot of people suggested that I put something in the speaker hole or even go into the insides of it and deactivate the speaker. And I may well do that in due course, but not just yet, because I think we need to revel in its screams for at least a week or so more. And then somebody suggested this idea, which is throwing down kind of like a bit of a red instruction to it if I wanted it to stop. So I could just quickly drop that in there. And mercifully, the horrible noises will stop as it sees the red instruction for stopping. And then I can just grab the train to turn it off. Yeah, so thanks for that suggestion. That was really good. I'll give that one a bedoing. So I'm sure when I come to edit this video, it'll be another really long one, but it's pretty unavoidable, I think, especially in this case, because we have achieved quite a lot. It's quite a big old station. In fact, I think it might actually be longer platform-wise than the other one, so it's quite a good empty space that we've got to fill with ghosties. And that train, of course. So we've got this end with quite a few details on the cameras and all that. All round the back. Going to have those nameplates on in due course. Looking pretty spooky if you ask me. And I do like these stairs that go up into nowhere. This one will make more sense when the table's in there blocking the sort of part where it goes to nowhere. But yeah, I really like it. So as always, thank you very much for watching. Do remember to like, comment and subscribe. And if you value this channel, there are many ways in which you can support it. They're detailed in the video's description below. And next time on Robin Hood Bricks, we'll be staying on this Halloween theme with part 3. And I think that one's just going to have to focus on the train itself. And then part 4, we can bring all the elements together, install this setup that we've done today in the Lego room, and set it all going with loads of ghosts. Should be really good fun. So, see you then!